Hello everyone, it's me Phiona Mbowa here at Church of Uganda Family TV with Diaries, where we talk about everything and anything to do with marriage. And I keep saying we're not experts at marriage. There's no expert at marriage. We just come here to share experiences and bring real people to share real experiences to see if that's the thing you're going through. How do you go through it? Or you remember that if at one point you go through that situation, you're reminded of what someone said and can help you through, all in a bid to make marriages a better place. So this evening we're going to talk about the topic of fighting fair. Now, fighting fair, for starters, we're not talking about literally fighting and getting out your fists and fight. But to share with us this evening is Kennedy and Norah Abiteganiza. You're very welcome. Welcome to Ring Diaries. I'm very happy to host you. So Norah and Kennedy have been married for 6 years, full years, and they're still going strong. Stronger. And they say the first 5 years, and once you go past there, you're going to stick there. Yes, but you're welcome to the show. And I think for the sake of our viewers, what is fighting fair? Or fighting for starters? Which fighting are we talking about?
Thank you very much, Phiona. We are very glad to be here. So fighting, just like you already explained, we're not talking about getting out our fists and fighting, because that one is a no-go area. However, fights are there in our marriages, and they should be expected. We should know that from the very start. For those who are yet to get married, just know that you're going to have fights ahead of. But also, even before you get married, normal families, you have fights that are there. So it's the normal fighting, it's the disagreements that come up. It is because we are different, you find that there are things that a bit of conflicts are going to come up. But yeah, so that's really those are the fights we're talking about. And so fighting fair, I would think is, first of all, expecting that these would come, and that when they come, how will we handle them so that they don't break us apart? Yes, so that is what fighting fair would mean.
But Kennedy, Norah is saying every couple fights, but I've had people say we've been married for 40 years and we've never fought.
Wow. That would be hard to believe that they've never fought. Yes, maybe they've never fought physically, but they've probably had disagreements, they've probably had a conflict over something, and I think it's inevitable, I would say, because we are different. Yes, we are different, so because we are different, we are going to, at times, be like sandpaper. I'm going to rub against you because I think a different way, I've grown up a different way, I have a different background. Maybe from my background is a different way I see things, yes. And so because of that, I expect, even in the workplace, conflicts arise. But in the context of marriage, I think I would say it's inevitable because, conflict, Again, I think the disclaimer that it's not physical. We're not getting physical. But
sometimes there are times where I should be allowed to get physical.
It should never sort of get physical. It should never get physical in any way, You can resolve things without it getting physical, so even before the whole domestic violence laws and what, of course, they are put there to sort of judge against the obvious, but I think I don't believe that it should be physical.
Should get physical at anyone. Okay, so what is fighting fair? And if it is when you talk about a fight, even if it's just verbal, I believe there should be a win. Shouldn't there be a winner? So if you make it fair, fair means like, what is fighting fair anyway?
I think I'll let Norah go first.
Okay, I think to start with, I think I'll just pick on what you said. Should there be a winner? I think in marriage, we are not looking for who is the winner, who is the loser. Because we're on the same team at the end of the day.
I need to.
We are on the same team. So if one person is losing and the other one is winning, then who is going to carry the trophy? Because both of you need it. You need to actually keep carrying this trophy together. So for you to be able to fight fairly, be able to win together, you need to just let the conflict be the issue you're dealing with, but it is not who of us is going to win, because whatever we come up with, whatever resolution we should come up with at the end of the day is going to help our team stay strong. So
for starters,
yes,
as we start our fight, we need to start with the knowledge that nobody wins, nobody
nobody's losing.
We are all, if we lose, we all lose.
All lose. At the
The
end
team,
of the day,
I like that.
the team loses.
But
the
this
team
team that
wins.
is fighting.
But at the end of the day, also Phiona, whatever we're going to come up with should be something that is going to become better, help our marriage become better. You know, with this decision we are taking is for us to advance and get better in our marriage, or do things better. So, and at times you may have to, at times, you know, you've grown up with this thing of, and I've heard someone say, for me, I was the last born, and so everything was always for fighting for. That should not be what you're coming with. It should be, even if you are the last born. Here, it's not like
You're not the last born.
you're not the last born in this marriage. This marriage, we are partners. We're going to do this together. Whatever we do is going to make us better. Yes. So I think for me, that's what fighting fair is. Yes.
And Kennedy, do you have anything to add about fighting fair?
Yeah, I think that you are questioning the word fair there.
What's
About
fair
fair,
if it's a
about fair,
fight?
yeah.
Fairness.
And to agree with Nora, the idea that we're the same team, okay? That the idea is that the team should win, not I won, you lost, you know? For me, I like the concept of win-win, yeah? Win-win. And it's possible, you know? Of course, as human beings, we all have a selfish element, yes?
I must win.
Yeah.
I should win.
A selfish element, and many times that's the cause of the conflict. Many times that's where conflict comes from, and many times that's why conflict doesn't end well, because of our selfishness. We all have that selfish bit, and we want to win. Of course, if we follow that selfish bit, if each of us is following their own selfish and they're saying I must win, then we're not going to have that win-win, you know? I don't know which example I could give here. I don't know which example of we lose, but the team wins.
If we've lost, the team has lost.
For example, if we are disagreeing about which school the child goes to.
Somehow that's what I was thinking about. Me, I want this one.
Yes.
Ben wants
He wants the other one. I think for starters, we have to know, okay, what's the issue? The issue is education, a good education.
Yeah.
And I think each of us is bringing up, you're suggesting that school because you believe that's where our child is going to have the best education.
Yes.
I'm also suggesting this school because I believe that's where our child is going to have the best education. So I think, okay, one thing we're agreeing about, and I think
a good education
is
for our child.
Our child needs to have a good education. And at the end of the day, that's what needs to win. So obviously, I have to listen to why she's suggesting that other school. She also has to listen why I'm suggesting this other school, the different reasons, yeah? And I think if we keep that in mind, and one, the fact that I need to listen to the good points in her submission, yes. She also has to listen to the good points in my submission, but keeping the main thing that a good education is what we want for our child, and also putting aside saying, okay, I'm putting aside my selfish sort of ambition, my need to win.
But in this case, actually, maybe nothing selfish. I want my child in an international school. You believe you want our child in a national school.
You know why? Because for example, I might, for example, in her submission, it might come out that her idea is the best. Yes,
Yes.
it
I
might come
give you
out.
my
Yes.
pros for international school.
And I give mine, but in our discussion, it is clear that the idea she's giving is the best. But if I decide no, I have to win, then you can see that the can I say the worst idea won. I don't know.
And we all win because we're
well, if the worst idea, for example, her idea was the best, but I pushed my way and won. Okay, I have won, but ultimately I believe the team has lost because she will now be left with a sour taste in her mouth. Okay, because logically speaking, we discussed it logically, and it was clear in the submission
The proposers
that her idea was the best. But I had to push my way. I had to push my way to ensure that I get my way because of my selfishness. I feel like in that instance, we both lost because that leaves a sour taste. In our mouth.
Okay.
When something comes up tomorrow, you have left this person in the place of, you say, I told you this won't work out. So to avoid that, I also feel maybe the other way to do it is in marriage. Maybe if I go back to that, in marriage, if I look to please you and you look to please me, then we go away from the bit of I come to a conversation with a mind that is made up that I have to win. Because I might actually come into this conversation and you're raising very valid points. But because I came with a mind that is set out to win, I don't even listen to what you say. So first of all, before we even start this conversation, we must be willing that we are both my ideas matter and his ideas matter. At the end of the day, all of us have great interests. We have the best interests for our marriage. So when I come with my ideas, I want international school. What are my reasons? My reasons could be that you see what all my friends have their children in international schools. It is very prestigious to say which school, and then you're adding the word international at the end. It looks like fancy. Yeah. But the question is that should that really be what drives our family? So when someone now says, but you see, for me, I actually want, or maybe we don't have enough money to afford that school. What about if we go to a simple school that is near home? We actually went through those same schools ourselves. Are we not where we are? Those were our years. Yeah, but everyone now needs to actually listen. You never know, actually, this conversation might end with us taking our child to an international school. That shouldn't mean that I won. We could have ended up with an international school. Not even for the reasons I brought, but because we have actually now visited. We could even choose to say, let's visit one of the international schools. You realize, maybe their curriculum is actually better than the other one, which I thought. So his reason for making up his mind to go with an international school is not anything around the fact that you see all our friends are taking children to international schools, but you have all had reasoned judgment and agreed on something that is going to be good for the education of our children. So both of you have won. No one has lost.
Okay, I'm convinced. But so is it important to fight fair? Or to have healthy conflict?
I think it is very, very important to have healthy conflict. To have conflict and resolve it in a very fair way. Because with every conflict, I think as a marriage you grow. You find your past that it's like there are those games, I think, which even my son was to, where you keep jumping from one level to another, then you learn how to fight to the other. I think with every conflict, you actually, as a marriage, you grow from one level to another. Then you find that you're going from maybe small to big to small to big, and those are the things that help to bring you closer. But if you totally avoid conflict, you will actually be apart. You will remain. Remember, when we get married, we become one. But I actually feel like the oneness comes as we go along. It happens when we are given this certificate at the beginning and say, oh, now you're married and you're one. This oneness comes with the work that you put in. And I feel like these conflicts contribute a lot to you becoming one. At the end of the day, you find that, just like the Bible says, how can two work together unless they agree? That agreement comes over time. You begin to learn to, okay, this is what I think he's going to say. Even before I bring my opinion, I kind of know what he's going to say.
Because of the
previous one. And I also hope that your that kind of reasoning is not from the point, let me even not bring it at all. Because I know he's not going to. Yeah, but you have learned to say, okay, I think this is where we're heading. We understand our vision for our family. So even what I'm going to bring on the table is going to... So somehow you begin to walk in agreement because of some of those conflicts. So it's very important.
But doesn't that bring down the point where you're like, I'm not going to fight anymore, I'm tired. Why? Then he's going to give me his... Especially some of us, when you're married to the talk and you're the quiet one, and you know that there's nothing you can do to out-talk him or out-reason him. Like he has all... There are those people who... they have an answer to every question. And you're like, why am I struggling
even with this conversation?
I think maybe I would first go back to, I think the question you asked, is it necessary? Yeah. And I again go back to what I said earlier, that it's inevitable. If it's not happening, it's just that people are avoiding it. Yeah, like
Isn't it better to avoid?
Well, you could avoid it, but avoiding it doesn't take it away. It just means you suppress it, and maybe you bring it out. You express it in another way. You know, people blow up, people do what, yeah. But the fact that one, we are different, and one, there are things we are going to find that we are disagreeing about, and obviously, and that's what causes conflict. I think for me, conflict is inevitable. Maybe how you resolve the conflict is what matters. Yes. So like I think the discussion should not even be about conflict, should be about conflict resolution, because it's like conflict is
But I've told you people who say have been married 40 years and we've never had a conflict.
I would like to listen to those to hear those ones. And maybe they are a trinity who they are perfect and they agree on each other and they agree on everything. But indeed, conflict resolution. You said something about the quiet one, you know, potentially. And I remember when we were studying, okay, we one of the things that helped us sort of appreciate how to resolve conflicts well was a marriage course, a course we did at church as part of a fellowship, yeah. And one of the things they said is that we sort of need to understand ourselves, how we react to conflict. And I remember, maybe Noah will remind me, there were some people who were, I think they were the hedgehogs, and the rhino, was it?
The rhino,
yeah.
Those who avoid.
So yeah, the rhinos charge into conflict. The hedgehog or the porcupine like rolls up in a ball.
And we hide until the conflict passes.
Yes, you see that. But it does not. So I think it also takes that self-awareness, but also to know sort of your spouse. Yeah, I think the question then it becomes, if you're a hedgehog, if you tend towards a hedgehog, how do you deal with conflict? If you're the type who you have the work dealing with conflict is you hide, you roll up in a ball, while the other person charges, how then do you deal with the conflict? Yeah, how do you deal with it well? So maybe I'll give that to Norah to remind us.
What I remember is one of the things, first of all, is to accept our differences. It's very important as a couple to understand who charges, who is the one who coils, because both of them, even while the other one is it coiling or something, if they are coiling, still you know that hedgehog porcupine, it's like this, but immediately you touch it, it throws all the thorns all over. So it also has its own way of attacking, but then you've not brought out what the issue is. So maybe you're in silent treatment, you just go, but every time the person wants to do anything, you're the one.
You sing a song.
You sing a song, or you're throwing a tantrum out Oh, you're pushing them away, and the person is really wondering what exactly happened. And the person can't wait for you to talk about it, but you're not willing to talk about it. Then the hedgehog wants the things discussed there. Right now, this is the issue. Let's discuss it. The other one is saying, I don't want to discuss that. And even the second day, the third day, the fourth day. So it's very important for the two people in the marriage to understand who is which character. But also there's a time you really need to both know that you must discuss this matter. It may not be discussed right now, maybe, because the hedgehog may want it immediately. You may need to give the other person time and say, we shall discuss this. But also the other one needs to know that there are time limits, because the more you prolong a conflict, just the Bible says don't even go to bed when you're angry.
No, when you prolong it, it is forgotten.
Oh my dear. When you prolong it, it builds. We know how to build castles. Every time someone does something else, now you add it to the other, you add it. So it's very important that you deal with it, and deal with it in a timely way, so that it does not actually break the marriage. And maybe also to mention that the enemy keeps looking for those areas. Because, like we said, we are a team. The enemy does not like it when you are a team and together. So he will keep using those small little conflicts. It can start as small as I don't know what kind of conflict. Something very tiny. But it will become big and big and big if you don't deal with it. So it's very important that you keep being very alert and dealing with a conflict then.
So we're talking about this fighting fair and all that, but what are some of the areas that we actually fight about as married people? What are some of those areas that we fight about?
Again, it still goes down to those differences we have, but it could be, again, like I said, it could be the school, talking about school. It can be food. If I remember some of the things like we had sort of conflict about, I remember one of the things when we just got married was about supper, When I was single, I never used to have supper, and when we got married, we were both working. We'd come back home. We've come back at the same time because we're both working, and I see her struggling, like, to fix a meal and things like that.
And I'm like, said you have to cook,
So so those were potential points of conflict, because I'm like, why are you struggling and what? And she's feeling like, this is what a wife is supposed to do. This is,
my husband.
Yeah, so those are potential sources of conflict. It could be money many times. Money is, you say money is the biggest sort of cause of breakups, but money, my money is my money, your money is our money. Yes, so
what is mine is mine, yes. What is yours we share.
Those things, I mean, things like in-laws, a number of things, because different people have sort of different, what we call, deal breakers, and ideally things that should have been discussed before you walk down the aisle. But I think, just to answer your question, there are so many things, that could stem up. I could mention them, but because also people were so different in so many ways, a conflict can arise from anywhere because you're different.
The way you're driving on the road.
Yes.
You can pass someone, I told you pass this side, I told you pass the other side. You found the jam, and then I told you the other side.
I should have
not
followed
the other side. That's
So I mean, I always give an example when talks about differences, about how I like gadgets. I keep gadgets. I can keep a phone for 4 or 5 years. I can have a charger. I can have a charger for a year or something, and for her, it's no big deal. I can give a charger this week, and she leaves it at office. She leaves it at office, So of course, before we discussed it, and I think I used to keep quiet until one day it sort of blew up when I'm like, you always do this, but for her she hadn't noticed,
It's just a charger.
Yeah, it's just a charger.
And it wasn't a big deal until you talked about it.
Until, you know.
So at times, sincerely, you're struggling with something which you think the other one should know. Even what did you do? Did you say a charger? Like, how does a charger even annoy someone? So you know you're in that point, but it's very important to just discuss even the simplest of things. When you're asking which kind of conflicts, I was just even imagining someone, you could have a new baby, and the conflict is, should the baby sleep facing down or facing up? For me, as we grow up, I saw my mom doing this. Oh, I've been seeing. And the other one has, I don't know, it's something like that. At times you may have to read about it or something, but you can fight about that. Like, no, but I'm the woman in this.
Then look at this, baby.
you're
Can you tell me to make it sleep facing
so
sideways? Don't go. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with this discussion about having healthy fights, like fighting fair. Though I'm still trying to understand what fair means, but having a fair fight as married couples, because we can't avoid fights, but we can at least fight fair. Don't go away. I'm Phiona Mbowa here at Church of Uganda Family TV with Diaries. Welcome back. Before we went for the break, we're talking about how to fight fair. How is the best way we can fight fair? Because fights are among us; they are there for life. We can't avoid them. But how do we handle them in a fair way? Okay, Kennedy was saying we both win or both lose, but I believe there's always a winner. But we'll continue that conversation. I know we're saying we are all winning. It's all a team and all that. But there are those elements that should be deal breakers. Like, yes, I know we're working together about this, but when it crosses this line, I actually don't think that is worth it anymore. What are some of those deal breakers we have as we fight fair?
I'll let her go first. Because my view is controversial.
It is. Okay, I think for me, indeed, there are deal breakers. There are conflicts. I don't know that call it conflict resolution in this case. Because there are some things where I think there are no-go areas. But it's very important that they're discussed before the marriage. Why? Because at times, what is a deal breaker for me may not be a deal breaker for you. Now that is bringing it down to a lower level. But there are those very common, all of us know. For example, if you started, if there was violence in a family, and this person, for them, every time when they are just angry, they have to throw around glasses or get up later, or raise hands or kick or pull out the belt. Some of those things.
Reminded me of a friend. The husband annoyed her, and she went to his car and broke all the glasses.
No.
Yes, and for her, that's how she was releasing her
stress on the car.
On the car.
The question is, has it been resolved? It has not.
Okay.
Yes, because you really need to talk about it for someone to know how. Okay, this hurts you, but how exactly how did you feel when this happened? You must get to that point and discuss it if there's room for that. And maybe sometimes for those very big deal breakers, they might even be resolved through a simple conversation, because you think that you have to seek counsel, maybe have a third party coming in. There are those levels. If it is infidelity, if it's different things that really they are deal breakers in marriages. But also there are other deal breakers that you may not know. Someone may, I don't know what to call it, but someone may have something that is a deal breaker for them, and you really need to listen. So I think it's better to understand some of these things and have discussions before you enter into the marriage. Though I think even as you go along, there are many things you may not have may not have talked about, but it's always creating the time to have discussions so that you understand what hurts the other and what hurts them really deeply. Because sometimes something triggers hurt in someone's heart because of it reminds them of something else that happened in the past, something that you would never have thought about. Maybe every time that, I don't know, that someone looked at them that way, it was because of something else. So I think it's very, very important that you have those discussions, because you cannot assume that you know the other person well. Yeah, so.
Yes, Kenneth.
Yeah, I agree with what she's saying, and things like violence, infidelity, and what, they can be deal breakers, yes, and I believe also that for starters, before this, some of these deal breakers should be discussed before you enter the marriage. Yes, so that's the best time to discuss those deal breakers because and sort of manage expectations. Yeah, the reason I said my view might be a bit controversial because I was thinking about it. I'm like, one, I made a vow that till death do us part. You know, in wealth, in what, in sickness, and in health.
And sometimes we forgo.
That is one. Okay. But also number two, you know the Bible tells us as men to love our wives like Christ loved the church. So I'm thinking, what's the deal breaker for in Christ's relationship with the church? You know, then maybe. So it's a tough question. I think yes, there are lines that can't be crossed, and people should understand that. But where is the balance also? Because as she said, you can't know. Like I can't.
You honestly can't know.
I cannot tell right now what will happen. I just hope that we never reach that point where she does something where I say, no, this is a deal breaker. But I think we have to sort of consider all those things. The fact that the vows that we made, discuss those things before we get into marriage. But then also, I think for me, I had answers before. But when I thought about that thing of husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church, and he gave himself for her, and things like that.
You figured what kind of love come?
I think I can only deal with the situation as it arises.
Case by case basis.
So I think for anyone watching, I think it has to be a balance between what she has said and what I'm saying.
You find somewhere there and okay. So anyway, what ways can we fight? Like now, yes, we talked about all this, but I want us to get down to how do we fight fair? Because it's one thing to be told to fight fair, but it's another to actually know. Also to help us assess how we've been fighting. But I've been there thinking we're fighting fair. We're at negative 20. So how do we fight fair? What steps do we take when we're fighting fair?
Okay, indeed. I think if I could sort of advise someone from what we have learned, if it was maybe step by step, I think the first bit would be one to appreciate, to be able to appreciate each other. One, of course, conflicts, being in the point of conflict can make me look at her as if, she's the devil, she's this bad person, the enemy. I need to first step back and be like, okay, who am I dealing with? This is my wife, who I love, who has these good traits A, B, C, D, and things like that.
You've annoyed me, and I'm starting to remember the good things.
Well, what that does is that it doesn't. What can I say? Because some of these things can get personal, and a conflict can cause what they call irreconcilable differences. You say something that you can't take back.
It becomes a deal breaker.
Yeah, you say something that you can't take back. So I have to, I guess, in conflict, deal with her in kindness and grace. Yes, and let's start from that, so that then we can now then isolate this issue. I don't deal with her, or I don't do conflict resolution with her as if I'm dealing with the devil or something. I think that helps to put the issue in perspective and, like you said, fight well.
But is that feasible? Is that even possible? Like already, if there is an issue, there is an issue.
I think how I think why it becomes possible is that, and we say from the start, expecting that conflict might happen. And for sure, one thing I've realized is that people we love hurt us more than even if it was a workmate who did this. Somehow you will get out. But when it is your own husband, or it's someone who's close to you, they hurt you. So it's also good for you to, first of all, know that conflict is going to come. So because of that, don't keep waiting for conflict to come. what other things are you doing on a daily? Are you able to appreciate? I feel like for me, the appreciation maybe may not come at that particular point of the conflict, but on the way you're living your lives, I appreciate that you know that you actually go out to work, that you bring this money home, that you know our children, the school fees was paid on time, or something like that. You are walking a journey of appreciating each other. When conflict comes, when something comes up, you already have a bank of good things that this person has been doing. Your eyes are open to the many other things they've done right. So you don't look at them as the devil that because really they've just gone off track just for one day. So if you build a culture of appreciating each other, when conflict comes, it becomes easier to deal with. I think that for me, that's a bit of a showing appreciation. But also maybe to add on the bit of how to actually fight fair is maybe learning how to, maybe I'll just use learning how to negotiate, or learning how to actually, if the conflict is there, how should we handle it? There's a right time to actually deal with things, and I think that Ecclesiastes tells us that, you know.
Waking up at 3 a.m. and say,
And actually, 3 a.m. at times you may be the other person who does not talk, who has been in silent treatment. And what is happening is you're the one burning.
You can't sleep.
We slept.
And he's
for you.
sleeping
Made
peacefully.
them. You say, can't imagine, isn't it?
He's sleeping peacefully when he hurt me.
Wake up, let's talk about it. And the person saying, what time is it? What exactly?
Doesn't matter time. We haven't.
Is that the right time to talk about it? I also feel like it has a bit of place in it.
Yeah.
There's a right time, there's a right place to deal with conflict. And I think it's very important to give, if there is a conflict, because we know that conflict can actually break us. Because we know we need to be alert. We need to be very intentional in ensuring that we've dealt with it. Find the right place to deal with a conflict. Some people want to just go use their bedrooms as the place for dealing with conflict. But another person can choose. Maybe some other couples can say, you know what? I think it also depends on the magnitude of the conflict. Sometimes you may say, let's go out. Just take time and sit somewhere. And just talk over this. Make sure while there.
And I will shout at you when no one is
shout at you when no one is hearing. But make sure it's private. Okay, just make sure you find the right place. It's not right to start throwing words at each other before children. And I think our parents were wise enough to not. At times you actually grow up in this home and you think your parents have never fought because they understand the right place where to take their conflict. So place is also one other thing that you could look at. And when you're dealing with this conflict, how are you talking? Like you said, I think you don't really have to shout at the top of your voice. So maybe
you're really talking about negotiation, like we have to. Like a business deal. At
the end of the day, when we leave this conflict, and I think I've watched like a video before where couples started conflicting from here. Then as they talked, they came close. As they talked, by the time they left, they were giving each other a hug. Yeah, because you found the right place, you found the right time to deal with it, and at the end of the day, this is supposed to bring us closer, and we go back home holding hands. So, yeah.
Negotiate. I'm imagining a scenario where I have to negotiate in a conflict. Anyway, what other ways can we handle conflict?
I think the other thing I would say is the bit of isolating the issue from the individual. Okay, like earlier, I think we gave an example of the education, good education for a child. That's the issue. That's the issue that we are conflicting on. Yeah, but I think the mistake we make in negotiation is to sort of make it about the other person, like you are the issue.
You're the one.
You always.
You are
always
like,
do
and then
this.
You say, you always do this, or you start saying,
even your mother looked at me like this.
So someone said their stories we tell ourselves versus the facts. So sometimes, like you've said, maybe someone in the past did something to you for a certain reason. So whenever someone does that same thing, you believe they did it
for the same reason.
And so that's the story you tell yourself, which might not be true. You know, her reasons for doing that could be very different. Yeah. So we have to be, so the goal, I think, is really to find out what the facts are, so that you can deal with the facts, you can deal with the issue, and not just conjure up a story. For example, I might come late, and she had a story somewhere that someone's husband came late because they were at ABC. So since you are here late, it means
You must be coming
that
from
you
the
must
same
be coming
place.
from that same place.
Yeah.
Which it could totally, so she has to sort of put aside that story and listen to the facts, so that then she can deal with it well. Yeah. But going back to that issue of let's deal with the issue.
Not the individual.
Not the individual. It's very important because it can be an education thing, but also it could be a mistake. You know, it could be a mistake. I don't know what example I can give. Maybe no I can give, but the issue of let's deal with the issue. And I remember one of the things that we learned somewhere was, you know, sort of get an item to represent the issue. You know, like this thing, this is the issue. So we are here, two of us, trying to deal with the issue.
But this issue was brought by Kennedy. Well, the issue. No, but I think I get what you're saying. Let's not look at the individual and you become the demon, yet it's just sometimes it's just difference in opinions.
When we also look at the issue, it helps you to, and for me, I can keep going back to being like that. Because the enemy can use, remember we come into marriage, but we don't become perfect beings. It's not, even that we are born again, yes, we are Christians, but we're not perfect. You find someone still, there's something they're still doing. And so it also goes to accepting each other and helping each other deal with that area. Because what if someone is actually weak in something, and maybe it's something you've talked about before, I'm even wondering what example to give. But they have a weakness. I don't know what. Okay, you had talked about me and my losing of chargers. It could be that seems the simple one, but it could be something maybe more serious than that. But you know that you have talked about it, and the person is willing to change. So then it happens again. Being patient with them and dealing with them with grace, I think, is very important. But also constantly
losing charges. Why isn't this person learning not to lose charges?
And I'm saying this not from the point of this other person also who is doing wrong must accept I'm doing wrong, and they must be willing to take steps towards doing the right thing. Yeah. So all of us being willing to change is what is going to help us become better.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think that sometimes what causes these things is we look at things like we trivialize some things? That to me it's actually just a charge. Honestly. And yet to this person, it is a big thing. So where do we get the compromise?
I feel like the compromise also comes from appreciating one another, but also if this marriage is going to work, we really have to be in agreement. And why we have to be in agreement also is that otherwise, if you're not in agreement, the other option is that you're in disagreement, and this small thing can actually tear apart a marriage. So we must be very careful to make sure that even the smallest of conflicts is dealt with, because you don't know what it actually, how big it seems very trivial to me, but it is actually very big on the other person's side. For me, a charger, a headset, like really that is something simple, but for the other one, they look at them as my gadgets, as for them, by not doing, they are looking at it like, really, if you don't change here, you're becoming, this shows carelessness, and for them that means something else. So it's very important that you really deal with that conflict and not trivialize it.
Yeah, and that reminds me of the constant conflict or the constant fight. So put your socks in the basket.
Yes.
For me, it is as simple as remove your socks, put them in the bin.
Yeah.
This person just simply doesn't see the bin, and this is something so simple that we've seen marriages struggle.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, it's the bin you don't see, it's the socks you don't see. So that we need to find a compromise somewhere, and I don't know, maybe Kennedy can help us.
Yeah, indeed, because we are different, we will never be the same. Okay, we are growing closer to each other. I've heard people say of certain people who have been married for a long time that they now look alike.
Yeah, they actually start to
Yeah, they start to look alike. So yeah, you're probably coming. The process of becoming one is happening more and more. Yes. So, for example, I'll go back to the charger issue. Like, it's no big deal. I can buy a charger every week if need be, because again, it's not a deal breaker in marriage. So, and it's her nature. She doesn't do it spitefully that let me lose this charger to annoy you. I hope.
we also need to
Yeah.
understand.
So I believe that she doesn't do it spitefully to annoy me. It's just that she does it. It's not a big deal to her. So I've learned to deal with it and not make it a big deal to me. Yes, for the sake of the bigger things, the grand scheme of things, like you say, the issue of the socks. Yeah. So I think it's to accept our differences. Yes, if they are not deal breakers, but one, I read somewhere that if you focus on changing someone, like that's something out of your control. But you can change yourself.
It's easier to change yourself.
It's easier to change yourself, yeah. So I mean, and if it disturbs me so much, I can take it to God. I can take it to. She talked about a mediator or something like that, and God will deal with that because we can change. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is sometimes we have to accept our differences. Let those things go, agree, because I'm sure she's also tolerating me in certain areas.
Yeah, true.
Yes. So the other big example I give is that, okay, there are many times when I want to come and say, but you always do this, oh, you this. Then I imagine if God were to do the same to me, So I guess in many cases we have to agree that we are different. She'll never be perfect, okay? But we're on the process, we're on the journey. So I accept her. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that before marriage, the thing I learned is that, like, marry someone that even if they never change, like, that has to be your decision.
You would live with them.
You get it? You can't be that now. Let me get in this to change you or something. That's you
I'm
can't.
done with this project.
Yes.
So you have to be ready that if they never change, you're okay
I'll
with
still
it.
be here.
So if I'm in this, then that is the case. Unless of course they change for the worse, that will change the discussion. But yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. But now, about this whole thing, and there are instances when one party feels like I am the one always giving in. Like as we look for fairness, as you said, sometimes you have to lose, and you should be okay to lose, and we need to lose sometimes. But when you feel that you're constantly the one losing, constantly the one giving in.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot, and I don't know. It at times either happens to the person who is the quieter person, because sometimes when it's a marriage, you find one person is,
Very quiet,
very
like
aggressive, and
me.
then I don't know you, but some other people, you find the person is actually quiet, but they know how to bring their point out when it is time. And then the other person who is even the very talkative one, maybe the person talks, okay, it's okay. But also, then there's the person who is the very, very talkative one. They seem to be wanting their issues to be the ones to go they front their issues well,
and they support them so well,
and they support them so
just
well
allow
that we just allow. But also, it's very, very important, and that's why I think at one point I said that one marriage is about me wanting to please you, and the other also wanting to looking out for my interests, maybe not pleasing, looking out for my interests, and you looking out for my interests. Sometimes you really need to actually bring that out as an issue and say, but you see, last time, this is when I say this is we went with your idea. The other person also is not. Sometimes you need to actually consider this side. And I'll use an example that I think someone talked about. That, for example, you may find that every time we get money, let me say you get your money, we bring it together and we discuss what you should do with the money. So the last time we got the money, we said, okay, so let's buy this piece of land. Okay, so the next time we get the money, then we say, no, let's buy another piece of land. Let's start constructing. And the lady just wants to buy a new. He wants to buy new chairs.
Yes.
You get it. So they gave in because yes, the land is very, very
Land is good, yes.
But now this time around, I just want to buy new clothes for the kids and shoes. And you're saying, but you know what we have is enough. Who is even looking at us?
But for us,
It's
we want
very-
new clothes.
Yeah, we just want new clothes. So it's very, very important that because that alone also is another conflict.
Yeah.
Because what is going to happen tomorrow if the other person is not looking at that, the person is going to decide. This other one is going to just decide and say, I'm going to get next time when I get my money. I'm not going to declare it. You will just
I'll
look
go
up
and
and
buy
find the new
shoes.
chairs and find new shoes. After all, we shall already, because so by not listening to the other party, remember we are mature people. The person will find a way around it. Somehow, what they wanted to do
will happen.
So I think it's very important also when we raise different ideas. Let me say about money. You could say, let's put them on a list.
Yes.
Today, let's deal with this. But next time, we will deal with yours.
Yes.
So that my issue is not written off the list. All the time I bring it, your ideas.
Because land won't get finished.
Oh,
There's always a new
Are
piece
you
of
sure?
land to buy. Yes. There's always going to be a new piece of land to buy.
Yeah.
But children also need new clothes. It's a good idea. I should take that home. Anyway, for couples out there that are struggling with fights, some have actually given up. I know friends of mine have said, why fight if he's going to always win? What advice do you give them out there as we come to a close of this? How do you encourage them? Because honestly, people have stopped fighting, not because they have, but they've lost the zeal to fight at all. Why bother if it's going to be always the same? So what advice do you give our viewers out there?
Yeah, I think I'll share something. Maybe also Norah will share some. But I'm pulling from some of the things you said earlier, especially about appreciation. Yeah, sort of looking at. I think for starters, yes, in the midst of all this conflict and the fight, and we've reached this point, like, could we sort of pause to think about, what brought us together, what I loved about you and things like that, and maybe start from there and start, okay, yes, this person has done this bad thing, I feel hurt and what, but they are not, can I say, 100% evil. There's good.
There's some good
There's good
somewhere.
in them that attracted me and things like that. Then I think thinking about that can enable us sort of come back to the drawing board, to think about, okay, for starters, what issue has brought us to this level of conflict? Yes. Can we apply that principle of, okay, let's isolate the issue, let's discuss it. Yes. Though some things are tough, I'm sorry for some things are tough. Some things are tough, especially sometimes things to do with infidelity. I've seen it a certain, where you're trying to advise people, forgive. You're trying to advise the one who has been wronged, forgive. And they are like, and yet, okay, they are saying, I forgive, but what I want to see is change in the other person.
As you heard from Norah and Kennedy telling us how we are supposed to fight fair. Yes, fights are part of us, but how you handle it matters a lot. So talk about things. Let the issues stand alone and look at your partner as your friend. Don't continue. Let them not be the evil you're looking at, but look at the issue as it is. But also for those that feel that you're tired of that discussion, bring in a third party. Invite someone in that you trust, that you think you can share this conversation with, and see how best to fight fair. Not just fight to win, but also to fight fair. And also be part of marriage fellowships. I keep telling us marriage cannot be done alone. And when it is done alone, it's very lonely. So go out there, join a church marriage fellowship or a group of peers that you can discuss these things with. But above all, when you're fighting, remember, it is not your partner, it is the issue that is there that you're fighting. Thank you very much for watching. It's me, Phiona Mbowa, here at Church of Uganda Family TV, Ring Diaries.